in the round. How you doing, Lindley? So Breitbart, then Town Hall, then Drudge, then HuffPo, then Daily Beast, and then Slate. Good morning. It's Wednesday, June 14th, 2017. Yesterday, it was Attorney General Jeff Sessions' turn in the spotlight of the Senate Intelligence Committee's probe of Russian interference in the 2016 election. It was an occasionally testy hearing in which Sessions called the idea that he may have colluded with Russia an appalling and detestable lie. This morning on the Washington Journal, we're getting your reaction to yesterday's testimony. What'd you think? What grade would you give the Attorney General? Give us a call. Republicans, it's 202-748-8001. Democrats, 202-748-8000. Independents, 202-748-8002. You can also catch up with us on social media. On Twitter, it's at CSpanWJ. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/CSpan. A very good Wednesday morning to you. You can start calling in now. We want to hear your thoughts. Did you watch? What did you think? What grade would you give the Attorney General? Start dialing in now, and we'll show you some of the wrap-ups in various news websites and papers this morning and some of the key moments from the hearing. First, from some news websites from across the political spectrum, starting on the conservative side of the aisle. Here's the headline on the Sessions hearing from Breitbart.com. Echo chamber. Senators asked Jeff Sessions same question about Russians 12 times. From townhall.com, their website this morning with the headline quoting the appalling, detestable lies. From Drudge this morning, the headline there, Sessions slays Senate spy fiction. Some websites from the liberal side of the aisle. Huffington Post this morning with the headline, Sessions launches Team Trump's Russia counteroffensive. From the Daily Beast this morning, they refer to Sessions as Dr. No in their headline. Jeff Sessions would like you to stop asking him about Russia is their headline there. And one more from Slate.com this morning. Sessions sticks to his fiction is the headline that they went with this morning. We want to hear from you, want to hear your thoughts, your wrap-up of the hearing. What do you think the key moments were? Thomas is up first in Atlanta, Georgia, line for Democrats. Thomas, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Yes, Sessions got up there on the stand and he just eluded all the questions that they asked him. He didn't answer anything, and I think they should. Have some type of subpoena. I think they should subpoena Sessions for getting up there and lying on the stand. You know, and if he's gonna lie again, they should send him to court for lying, because Sessions just lied and lied and lied, and he won't answer anything.
From the Republican line, Monica is waiting in Delaware, Seaford, Delaware. Monica, good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Doing well. Go ahead.
Yes, I have watched this session very carefully. I watched it live yesterday. I watched it on C-SPAN last night, and I watched it again this morning. I was very impressed on how Mr. Sessions answered all the questions. I think he did a marvelous job. He was very forthright and forthcoming with what he was allowed to discuss, given his position. I was a little concerned at the difficulty that some senators were asking some questions. I think he was put under a spotlight he didn't need to be put under. He was put under a little pressure that I didn't think was necessary. But other than that, I think it went very well. I'm very impressed with him. So all in all, he did a good job.
And from our line for Independence, Jack is in Providence, Rhode Island. Good morning.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I actually believe that they already know there is no collusion. You know, Laurenti Beria said to Joe Stalin, quote, "Find me the man and I'll find you the crime." And what they're attempting to do is construct an obstruction of justice charge. Okay? What happened here? They never expected Trump to win. This is a shock to the system. Okay? And they want him out. They want him out. We'll see what happens, but they want him out of there. I'm talking about the elites that control this country. They want him out. They want him out. They can deal with Pence, that's why. They feel they can deal with him, but they want him out. And
how do you define the elites, Jack?
The elites are located in the D.C. area, in Manhattan, and in parts of Los Angeles. Now, don't call me an anti-Semite, but they're primarily, most of them, are left-wing Jews. They're financially very wealthy. They control Wall Street. They control Hollywood. Okay, and they control the banking here in the United States. But you've got to give them credit. They did it. They did it.
So, Jack, you think religion has a role to play in whether somebody's an elite or not?
Religion? Well, Jewish people, who I know, some of them consider themselves religious, like some Orthodox Jews that I know, but a lot of them don't consider them religious. They consider themselves just secular in their ways. Like we'll say, like, for example, who's a liberal, who's fair, is Alan Dershowitz, who I do not know definitely, but he's a secular man.
All right, Jack, we'll try to stick to a wrap up of the Sessions testimony yesterday. We're talking to our viewers about it. Also want to hear your thoughts on Twitter as well. Parkstorm writes in, Jeff Sessions' testimony confirmed James Comey's time is running out for Trump, and SFR with the tweet this morning. Democrats live in an alternative reality if they think the Attorney General's hearing made him or the president look guilty. Quite the opposite. This morning we're going to get your responses, want to hear what you thought about it, also show you some of the key moments, and one of those key moments came in Jeff Sessions' early testimony, talking about the Russian connection and his thoughts on some of the charges that have been made against him.
Let me state this clearly, colleagues. I have never met with or had any conversation with any Russians or any foreign officials concerning any type of interference with any campaign or election in the United States. Further, I have no knowledge of any such conversations by anyone connected to the Trump campaign. I was your colleague in this body for 20 years, at least some of you, and and the suggestion that I participated in any collusion, that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years, or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process is an appalling and detestable lie.
And if you missed any of yesterday's hearing, you can, of course, go back and watch it at cspan.org. But we hope you join us this morning. If you did, give us a call. Tell us what you thought, what grade you would give the Attorney General. Also of note this morning, we're offering a different, unique behind-the-scenes way to watch the Washington Journal this morning. You can go to C-SPAN's YouTube channel and see it, the 360 live stream of this program today. The URL is www.youtube.com/cspan. In our 360 live stream camera, it's a virtual reality 360 camera where you can use your mouse if you're viewing on a desktop to click and drag on the screen, and you'll be able to move the camera. You can see around our entire studio this morning. If you're viewing on the 360 stream on your mobile phone, you can just move your phone around and take a look around our studio. We're partnering with Google and YouTube to experiment with this new technology. Hope you go there, check it out, see what's happening behind the scenes and around our studio as we have this program and we talk to you this morning. As we talk to you this morning, we want to hear from you on the phones. Republicans, it's 202-748-8001. Democrats, 202-748-8000. Independents, 202-748-8002. And calling in on our line for Democrats is Eugene from Vermont. Eugene, good morning.
Well, something that the entire mainstream media and no one's talking about today. It's President Trump's birthday, and I would like to sing for him. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
All right, Eugene, giving the president a birthday shout out. The president indeed turning 71 today. It is his birthday today. Line for Independence. Karen is in Wheeling, West Virginia. Karen, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Go ahead.
I thought I would give Jeff Sessions a A- yesterday. I did watch most of it. I'm a former Oregonian, and he certainly handed Ron Wyden his hat because Ron Wyden went on him pretty hard. But he stood his ground, and I think he did really well. Ron Wyden's been in Congress. He's been in the Senate. He's been there forever. Blumenauer, you had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. He's been in Congress since the 80s. I mean, a lot of these guys have worked with Sessions for years and years, and how they could possibly think that he would collude with the Russians, it's beyond me. Well, they've moved beyond the collusion thing now. They're moving into the obstruction of justice thing. And they're just like Jeffrey Gundlach yesterday made an interesting comment during his podcast that this was simply an attempt to run out the clock for Trump. But I hope that this thing will end soon, and I think it's going to hurt the Democrats, quite frankly, in the 2018 elections. I think that people are sick of it. They want solutions to their own problems and not these endless investigations. So thanks for letting me make my comment.
Karen, before you go, you mentioned you followed Ron Wyden when you were living in Oregon. What do you think of him as his work in this investigation and some of the other panel members as well? Who do you think has asked sort of the best questions here? Who do you think has done a good job in sort of their oversight responsibilities?
I'd say that Cotton. He kind of, Senator Cotton, he kind of compared this to a Jason Bourne movie. To have this many people colluding and keeping this under wraps with no proof, no dates, no people, it's just amazing. I mean, you'd have to be, I don't know how people fall for it, quite frankly. I mean, I want to know the dates, the times, the people, what was said. And it's like there's been no crime. I mean, where's the crime? I'm kind of an even-handed person, but I can't see where the crime is.
Karen, thanks for the call from West Virginia. You mentioned Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas yesterday, Republican. Here's some of his exchange with the Attorney General.
So a very simple question that should be asked is, did Donald Trump or any of his associates in the campaign collude with Russia in hacking those emails and releasing them to the public? That's where we started 6 months ago. We have now heard from 6 of the 8 Democrats in this committee, and to my knowledge, I don't think a single one of them asked that question. They've gone down lots of other rabbit trails, but not that question. Maybe That is because Jim Comey said last week, as he said to Donald Trump, that on 3 times he assured him he was not under investigation. Maybe it's because multiple Democrats on this committee have stated they have seen no evidence thus far, after 6 months of our investigation and 11 months of an FBI investigation, of any such collusion. I would just suggest, what do we think happened at the Mayflower? Mr. Sessions, are you familiar with what spies called tradecraft?
A little bit.
That involves things like covert communications and dead drops and brush passes, right?
That is part of it.
Do you like spy fiction? John le Carré, Daniel Silva, Jason Matthews?
Yeah, Alan First, David Ignatius. Just finished Ignatius's book.
Do you like Jason Bourne or James Bond movies?
No. Yes. I do.
Have you ever, in any of these fantastical situations, heard of a plot line so ridiculous that a sitting United States senator and an ambassador of a foreign government colluded at an open setting with hundreds of other people to pull off the greatest caper in the history of Essex?
Thank you for saying that, Senator Cotton. It's just like through the looking glass. I mean, what is this? I explained how, in good faith, I said I had not met with Russians because they were suggesting I, as a surrogate, had been meeting continuously with Russians. I said I didn't meet with them. And now the next thing you know, I'm accused of some reception, plotting some sort of influence campaign for the American election. It's just beyond my capability to understand, and I really appreciate, Mr. Chairman, the opportunity at least to be able to say publicly, I didn't participate in that and know nothing about it.
And a few more of the headlines from today's papers. Here's the Washington Times here in D.C. Sessions slams Russia innuendo to the front page of USA Today. The headline there, Sessions hearing, lots of anger, few answers. And from the front page of the New York Times this morning, they go with the headline, Sessions denies collusion, deploring the detestable lie. Want to hear your thoughts. Bill in Jefferson Township, Pennsylvania, Republican. Go ahead.
It's politics. It's all politics. And the more down and dirty it gets, the more the media loves it. There's no Russian collusion. I think it's a witch hunt. But it's entertainment. It's pretty entertaining. But Jeff Sessions seems like an awfully nice man, and I hope they don't really get to him. I hope they don't really destroy him, because that's what they're out to do. That's my comment. Thank you. Bye.
Frank, Jacksonville, Florida, line for Democrats. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for C-SPAN. I would give Sessions a D for his answers because he couldn't recall, or he didn't say, or he kept stonewalling. That's my opinion.
The D that you would give him, echoed by Ben Ray Lujan, Congressman Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico, a Democrat. The D, he says, he'd give several Ds because all we saw today were denials, dismissals, and dodging. We'll show you tweets from a few other members of Congress, including Elizabeth Warren. Her tweet yesterday after the hearing, as our top law enforcement officer, the AG must be truthful and uphold the law. Sessions cannot continue to serve. He should resign. And then Pete King, Republican of New York, his tweet from yesterday after the hearing. Strong testimony today by the Attorney General so far. After all these months, still no evidence of Russia collusion with Trump campaign. Leela, what do you think in Brooklyn, New York, line for independence?
Well, I thought it was amazing that Mr. Sessions is such a poor supervisor. I have retired military, and I had people under me, and when they did wrong or I did not like how they're doing their job, I informed them, and I wrote it down. When they did a great job, we informed them, we wrote it down. So my take was, I think he needs to go to school to find out how to be a supervisor. If he does this for the FBI, what about all the other agencies where he's in touch of? And the second item was, I found it fascinating that he's not really interested in what happened with the hacking. I would think as the Attorney General, that would be on one of his top-notch items to ensure that the future elections are not hacked, or how we can go about informing the companies how to prevent the hackings. So that was my take, and I think he got about a B. Thank you so much again for C-SPAN.
And Leila, how would you grade any of the senators who are asking the questions? Who do you think got the best grade?
I think it's Senator Burr. I think he did really well. I liked with his closing remarks, and I thought he summed it up very well.
Senator Burr, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, has been leading this probe. Michael is from Brandon, Florida, line for Republicans. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing well.
Good. I think Jeff Sessions, to me personally, got a D. He could have been more open with what he said. I think he left room for the opposition to attack him a little bit more and left a lot of questions open. And as far as Trump, people seem to forget that he is a known lobbyist for years, since the 1980s, playing both sides of the field. So I'm surprised myself that Trump is not more of a progressive than what he is, to be honest with you, being that he has played both sides of the field for so long.
All right. One of our earlier callers mentioned the exchange between Oregon Senator Ron Wyden, a Democrat, and the Attorney General. Here's part of that.
General Sessions, respectfully, you're not answering the question.
Well, what is the question?
The question is, Mr. Comey said that there were matters with respect to the recusal that were problematic, and he couldn't talk about them. What are they?
Why don't you tell me? There are none, Senator Wyden. There are none. I can tell you that for absolute certainty. This is a secret innuendo being leaked out there about me, and I don't appreciate it. And I've tried to give my best and truthful answers to any committee I've appeared before, and it's really people are suggesting through innuendo that I have been not honest about matters, and I've tried to be honest.
My time is short. You've made your point that you think Mr. Comey is engaging in innuendo. We're going to keep digging on this.
Well, Senator Wyden, he did not say that.
He said it was problematic, and I asked you what was problematic about it.
Some of that leaked out of the committee that he said in closed sessions.
And we're hearing your responses this morning. We're going to be talking about it for most of our program today. You can call in Republicans 202-748-8001, Democrats 202-748-8000, Independents 202-748-8002. Jeff is in Temple Hills, Maryland, a Democrat. Jeff, good morning. Jeff, you with us? Stick by your phone. Sean is in Sunnyvale, California, an Independent. Sean, good morning.
Hey, man, what's going on? Hey, I never caught your name all the times I called in. What's your name?
It's John. What's going on?
John. All right. Check this out. To me, the little article you read earlier, the headline you had, it said a lot of anger, fewer answers. To me, it makes it sound like, Sessions is probably lying because it's like, hey, he's going to get mad off a lot of questions, that make him mad. So that's why there's a lot of anger.
Okay. Anything else to add, Sean?
No, I was kind of hoping you would respond, but
I want to hear from you. I don't want to take time away from the callers to do it. So let's hear from Shirley in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Line for Republican. Shirley, go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought our Attorney General Sessions did a beautiful job, and I'm going to tell you, he's a good man, a hard-working man, very honorable, and very truthful. We need more people like him. And the whole thing is that they want to take our president down, and they're working on all of his committee. Well, listen, it's not going to happen. God put him there. Nobody's going to take him down. So they might as well get used to it and start working with him to get something done for the American people. He's there working, trying to get jobs and trying to get the health care and the taxes, and he's so hard working, 4 hours sleep a day, and they want to keep doing all this nonsense. It has to stop sometime, and he's there to stay. He's not going anywhere, so they might as well get used to it. Thanks a lot, and God bless you.
Shirley, you mentioned health care. President Trump having lunch yesterday with 13 Senate Republicans working on the House-passed Affordable Care Act replacement bill. The story in USA Today noting that Trump said the new bill will be generous, kind, and with heart, and that the legislation will be signed as soon as we can do it. Trump, however, USA Today notes, stepped on his message a bit during the Tuesday lunch. An aide to a Republican senator who attended the meeting with Trump said that the president called the House version of the bill, quote, mean, and requested that senators put more money into their version of the legislation. When the House passed their repeal and replace bill back in May, of course, the president celebrated its passage by hosting Republican lawmakers at the White House. Some fallout from that this morning, and that mean comment being noted in a number of papers, including this headline from the Washington Post story about that. We're, of course, watching the Affordable Care Act repeal and replacement process. The efforts underway in the Senate to move their bill. The timeline noted in the Washington Post story says that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell declined to say whether the Senate would hold a vote on the bill before the July 4th recess, as some in the Senate had aspired to do. Quote, our goal here is to move forward quickly, McConnell told reporters. The status quo is unsustainable. We all know something has to be done. Back to your calls on the Attorney General's testimony yesterday. Pat, Carnegie, Pennsylvania, Democrat. Go ahead.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, Pat.
It's really stunning when you look at the totality of America's interference in elections, democratic elections around the world, and the historic interference of our nation in other political discourses. The failure of the American people to examine a quid pro quo environment, particularly with the Russians, and how many countries we've overthrown their leaders. Where's the self-examination of the American people? You have a president. I'm a Democrat, and it is so beguiling that the media just. I've never seen a greater level of assault on a leader of our nation, and the world is watching. It's not just watching any of the mistakes that the president is making, but when you see these political actors who are engaging in discourse in the media and assaulting President Trump, no matter what he does, it is really a shameful exercise.
So, Pat, bring that to yesterday's hearing. Did you see that in yesterday's hearing, and if so, what examples?
Well, I saw it's the same type of play that plays out, giving the impression that they're trying to get to the gist of what took place. But nothing ever comes out of it. And look at the amount of money, taxpayers' dollars that they're wasting. Instead of simply shoring up our grid system, our election grid system, which has been worn for more than a decade. You can go back a very long time and see that there was enormous concerns about our electronic election systems. I've been telling people this, and I've conveyed this on many talk shows. Where is the mea culpa from the United States? All we hear is the blame game of the Russians, and who are simply turning the cards on America. Even if they did interfere, guess what? We are getting our own just desserts if that's the case. And what we
Pat, got your point. We'll go to Rich in Ohio, line for independence. Rich, good morning.
Good morning. My comment basically is that I don't know how we can tell if there was collusion if we don't get any straight answers from the Attorney General about what the specifics were of his conversations with the Russian ambassador. And I don't believe we got any of those yesterday, and it's certainly there shouldn't be any privilege covering those discussions because they all occurred before the president was inaugurated. So there's no executive privilege, attorney-client privilege, or anything else. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but I don't believe he got into anything on any of those conversations, and except for maybe memory loss. And I think that's a travesty.
Rich, do you think the Democratic senators on the panel pushed that point enough, the not answering questions point?
No. And, I guess the alternative would have been the same thing maybe with former Director Comey, that maybe they could have gone into a confidential executive type session where he could have gotten into the details on those types of things if they felt it was involved. National security or confidential information. But I don't see how that could even be the case on any discussions that occurred in 2016 before the president was even inaugurated.
Well, Rich, here's Senator Martin Heinrich, a Democrat, his exchange with Jeff Sessions yesterday on this topic.
Can you tell me what are these long-standing DOJ rules that protect conversations made in the executive without invoking executive privilege?
Senator, I'm protecting the president's constitutional right by not giving it away before he has a chance to
You're having
review
it
it.
both
And
ways.
secondly, I am telling the truth in answering your question in saying it's a long-standing policy of the Department of Justice.
Are those
not
policies
to comment
written?
even and to make sure the president has full opportunity to decide these issues.
Can you share those policies with us? Are
Well,
they written down at the Department of Justice?
I believe they are.
This is
Certainly,
the appropriateness legal standard for not answering congressional inquiries.
It's my judgment that it would be inappropriate for me to answer and reveal private conversations with the president when he has not had a full opportunity to review the questions and to make a decision on whether or not to approve such an answer. One, there are also other privileges that could be invoked. One of the things deals with the investigation of the special counsel, as
And
other.
we're not asking
Well, I'm
questions about that investigation. If I wanted to ask questions about that investigation, I'd ask those of Rod Rosenstein. I'm asking about your personal knowledge from this committee, which has a constitutional obligation to get to the bottom of this. There are two investigations here. There is a special counsel investigation. There is also a congressional investigation. And you are obstructing that congressional investigation by not answering these questions. And I think your silence, like the silence of Director Coates, like the silence of Admiral Rogers, speaks volumes.
I would say that I have consulted with senior career attorneys in the department.
I suspect
and they believe
you have.
this is consistent with my duties.
And if you missed any of yesterday's hearing, you can, of course, always go back and watch it in its entirety at cspan.org. Getting your responses this morning, your thoughts, your grades on the Attorney General's performance yesterday. Carol Olds on Twitter saying the Attorney General held his own. He deserves a B. There is no there about collusion with Russia. Bill King with a tweet this morning. Jeff Sessions saying, I don't remember, remind me of someone. Oh yeah, I remember Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. And Mylan Burke calls the hearing another blow to Pence. Trump survived Sessions' testimony. On our line for Republicans, Donna is waiting in New York. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning. I just have 3 questions. When President Trump was always meeting Putin, he considered him his best friend. Also, Jeff was very evasive on a lot of his questions, and I find the senator, Mr. Cotton, was very strong backboned with his questions, and I think that President Trump, why did he send his son, who is not intelligent enough to discuss a meeting with the Russians? Why did not the Senate go in and have this meeting? And we don't know what Junior was talking about.
That's the questions Donna has. Julius in Greensboro, North Carolina. Line for Democrats, what do you think? Julius, go ahead.
A poor job, just like all the rest of the Trump organization. And I want to respond to that lady that said a while ago Trump wasn't going nowhere. Yes, Trump is going somewhere. He's going out of the White House. And thank you, and have a good day.
A few more tweets from members of Congress. Congressman Bradley Byrne is a Republican from Jeff Sessions' home state of Alabama. Tweeting yesterday, I'm not at all surprised that the Jeff Sessions who testified today was the same Jeff Sessions I have known for almost 40 years. He goes on to write, Jeff Sessions was honest, knowledgeable of the law, direct and professional during his testimony. Bernie Sanders with a tweet yesterday calling Jeff Sessions' appearance, saying it raised more questions than answers about Trump and whether he had tried to derail the Russia investigation. And speaking of Bernie Sanders, he has an op-ed in the pages of the New York Times today. How Democrats Can Stop Losing is the headline on his op-ed. He ends that piece by saying that this is a pivotal moment in American history. If Democrats are prepared to rally grassroots America in every state and to stand up to the greed of the billionaire class, the party will stop losing elections and it will create the kind of country the American people want and deserve. If you want to read the senator's full op-ed, the op-ed pages of the New York Times today. Sam, here in Washington, D.C., line for independence. Go ahead.
I give Jeff Sessions an F. I give Donald Trump an F. Because whenever the question was asked, did Donald Trump ask Comey anything about Russia, how he can protect the country? No. Did Jeff Sessions have anything to say about how he can prevent the Russians from doing any more harm to us? He don't even know. They're not protecting the country. It's party first. It's always party first. What happened to country first? Republicans, remember Republicans? Country first. That was the saying back in 15. Country first. Which country? America or Russia?
John is in Dumfries, Virginia, a Republican. John, go ahead.
Yes, good morning. All right, listen, I just want to make a couple of comments here, all right, especially for the lady that said that Donald Trump is not going anywhere. You know, the bottom line is this: there's too much going on here, and he's hiding things, and it's going to be shown. All right, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. All right, they're going to wind up impeaching him, and I think he's going to be his own worst advocate. Because he tweets every day about something, all right, but he is on the side of the Russia. Now, I want to make a comment about Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions, if you look at him, he was prepared. He had his lawyers and all of them. All right, they sit up there and they did probably days and days of working with him on questions on how to answer these questions and things. But my question is this: how can you sit up there and say, all right, if the president has not evoked our executive privilege, all right, that you're going to take a lot of questions back to the president and then say, okay, what do you think about this? How do you want to answer it? No, you in front of your Senate committee. You have to answer those questions, especially if they have not been evoked executive privilege. And he knew that and so forth. So I agree with Bernie Sanders. It brings more questions than answers. But the bottom line to that lady, all right.
John, let me ask you, you're calling in on our line for Republicans. Do you find yourself agreeing with Bernie Sanders often as a Republican?
Oh, yeah, because guess what? Even though I'm calling on the Republican line, guess what? I am no longer a Republican. Not after what I seen with Donald Trump. I had high hopes for him when he first came in, all right, talking that trash, and that's all it was. It was a bunch of rhetoric, okay, because think about him.
All right. Got your point, John. We do ask callers to call in on the lines that they currently identify with, the one that best fits you. So please do that so we can continue to roll through these lines and get as many wide-ranging opinions as possible. Michael's on our line for Independence in Hyattsville, Maryland. Good morning.
Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Hey, I wanted to remind people, as we're listening to these stories with, Jeff Sessions, Comey, no matter what you are, Democrat, Republican, it's interesting how everyone hears the same story but have completely different viewpoints on what happened. And, with this election cycle really divided the country as a whole. And I want it to be really, really important, really, really mindful of the fact that it's politics. Whatever your politics are, always remain respectful of your fellow American. Because the point is we've gotten so divided that we hear the exact same story, but, we have completely different viewpoints. We won't even listen to each other talk anymore. And it's gotten to the point where it's scary almost.
Do you think that happens more now than in the past, Michael? And if so, why?
Absolutely. We had this. There was a talk a couple of weeks ago about how the communications director for Trump, I forget his name, Sean Spicer, and the other young lady. I disagree with everything that they say, but I'm mindful of the fact that they're doing their job. And Comey, to me, he did his job. No matter what your politics are, you have to be very mindful. Like, these people are up there, and to me, it just seems like it's all just meant to divide us. No matter what you think politically, just remember, we're Americans at first. Number one. I don't care if you're black, white, Puerto Rican, whoever you are, we're all Americans. Do not forget that. That's all I got to say.
Jerry is in Sewell, New Jersey. Line for Democrats. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning. First of all, God bless the caller that just was before me. That kind of put things in perspective. I wish more people would get together for the country. But as far as Sessions goes, I am a registered Democrat. I kind of vote the person, not the party, but I am a registered Democrat, and I voted for Barack Obama. I voted for Trump. I'm trying to make America better. It's not about party. It really is not. It's about America. I'm sick of both parties, to tell you the truth. I think both of them are working against Trump, so I'm not happy about that. But the one thing I do want to say, too, I think the Democrats, too, are missing a major thing here. There's going to be more investigation about Loretta Lynch. You got that reality winner that leaked the information, to the newspaper. She's a Democrat, so I'm going to tell you something. You're going to find out, and I've said it before, the Democrat Party is extremely corrupt, and it's going to come out. So while they're targeting Trump, they're going to be picking up stuff about the Democrats, too. So, beware, and I thank you very much for the opportunity.
One of our earlier callers talking about the president's tweets. The president not tweeting yet today. We'll, of course, continue watching his Twitter page. This is a time of the day where he is often active. His last tweet coming from last night saying, just got back from Wisconsin. Great day, great people. As the Washington Post notes in their story, President Trump was in Wisconsin to visit technical college there and focus on jobs. After arriving in Wisconsin yesterday, the president made a statement about health care, and here's a bit of what he had to say.
The House of Representatives has passed on to the Senate, and the Senate's getting ready to do something. Hopefully it'll get done, where we will come up with a solution, and a really good one, to health care. No matter how good it is, we will get no obstructionist Democrat votes. No matter how good it is, if it's the greatest health care plan ever devised, we will get 0 votes by the obstructionists, the Democrats. It's time to give American families quality, reliable, affordable health care, and that's what we are working very hard to do, and we'll get it done.
And as we noted earlier, coming out yesterday, that President Trump told Republican senators in a meeting that the House-passed version of the health care bill was, quote, mean, and that he expects the Senate to improve that bill. That comment of mean is now being asked to a lot of the House Republicans who voted for that legislation, including Louis Gohmert, Republican from Texas. Lauren Fox is a reporter for CNN, and she was reporting yesterday in a tweet that was pretty widely shared. Gohmert walks by her. I asked him what he thought of Trump saying that the House bill is mean. Gohmert's response was the one that he had us come over and celebrate, meaning the celebration that took place at the White House after the passage of that bill. Back to your calls on the Attorney General's testimony yesterday. Mike, Uniontown, Pennsylvania, Republican. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say, I think to be honest with you, I watched the thing. I think he's a decent, honest guy. I really do, and I know that in this world now that you don't have that all the time. But I just think he's basically, nobody had a problem with him all the years that he was in the Senate. I mean, everybody, he got along with everybody. Now they just want to. I don't know. They're not happy with Trump, and they're just going to keep it up and keep it up and keep it up, and they ain't going to quit. But I thought he did a reasonable job. He really did.
Mike, what do you think about the caller saying that there were questions left unanswered, their frustration that he wouldn't talk about his conversations with the president?
Well, that stuff, that goes all, I mean, you could look at Comey, there's stuff that is said. You're not on a construction job, and you talk to your buddies and you this and that and the other. I mean, I'm sure that you could go all the way back to Obama. You could go back to Eric Holder selling all them weapons. Now nobody knows nothing about none of it. And you could go back. I'm sure he's probably said. He's probably had a conversation or two with the guy, but now they're just making a mockery of it. They are so determined to get that man out of there that they'll look at Maxine Waters. Geez, I wish she comes on there. She goes nuts, and I mean, he's the president. If somebody would have done that towards Obama, you would have never heard the end of it. But they don't want him in there. And I just think Sessions is a decent guy. They talk about he's a racist and all that. He put guys from the KKK in jail. I don't know what you want, but you know what they say, you better watch what you wish for, because I don't. The only thing I got against Trump is the tweeting, because he exits on and exits on and exits on and exits on, and I think a lot of that gets people aggravated.
Got your point, Mike. Let's go to Lewis, who is from Jeff Sessions' home state of Alabama. Lewis is from Florence, Alabama, Democrat. Good morning.
Good morning. I would give him a L if I can, but I give him a D or F. He ducked questions. He really ducked a lot of questions. And for a person that's supposed to be the Attorney General for the people, he was Trump's private lawyer. And now I give him a L. And he kind of reminded me of this Bentley we just impeached here in Alabama for lying. We got a lot of these big Republicans, the old Republicans, and they lie. And they was talking about, like Albright, when she was for Clinton, and about Waco. Every question they asked her, I don't care what it was, she answered it. But this man right here, he ducked questions. He's supposed to come straight out and give us a straight answer. Ain't no question in there that they asked. And when the only lady that was on the panel asked the question, he really got mad. Seemed like he just got angry, like something just went through him. And then
there are several women on the Senate Intelligence Committee.
The black lady.
You're talking about Senator Harris from California.
Yes. And then for some of the Republicans ask him a question, he'd be grinning like a horse eating yellow jackets. He'd just be smiling and grinning because he knows they're not going to ask him no hard question.
Lewis in Florence, Alabama. A reminder to our viewers, we talked a bit about this yesterday, but as that hearing was taking place, there was also an election taking place just across the Potomac River in Virginia, the primary for the governor and lieutenant governor's race taking place. The Washington Post, with their wrap-up of that race, Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam won the Democratic nomination for the governor of Virginia on Tuesday by an unexpectedly wide margin, and Republican Ed Gillespie held off a surprising challenge from Donald Trump acolyte Corey Stewart for that party's nomination. The story noting that the nation was watching Virginia as a political laboratory for how the political parties handled the deep divisions that followed last year's elections of President Trump. The establishment forces seemed to win out as Virginia voters resisted efforts to pull further to the right or to the left. Congressman Tom Perriello, that's former Congressman Tom Perriello of Virginia, channeled the energy and endorsement of progressive leader Senator Bernie Sanders as he tried to shake up the Democratic Party, but he fell short in his bid to bring enough new voters from among the young and working class to overcome Northam's command of the Democratic machine. That governor's race will take place later this fall. Byron is in Sharon, Pennsylvania. Independent. Byron, good morning.
Good morning, America. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Yes, I'm calling as an American. I'm not calling just as an independent. First off, I wanted to say about our Attorney General, I think everybody's blind to the fact that we all know body language, and we clearly see that every question, not only does Bernie Sanders say about raising eyebrows, his eyebrows rise very high during the conversation. I'm a, working class American here in Sharon, Pennsylvania. If anybody knows anything about Pennsylvania, we were very known for the steel mill industry. Now we all know with this new deal that's going on, I guess, with the, everything has to be made in America. We need to go figure out what's next. Are we going to really think about our children? This is not becoming about the America, the old way. It's too much social media. The president is spending way too much time on social media. He tweets more than I do. I'm at work all the time. He's tweeting. Come on. We have way more bigger issues we have to worry about. Let's go put our country first. Not just too much about the Republicans are doing this, the Democrats are doing that. No, forget about that. Let's figure out what the problem is and move forward. Whatever happened to moving forward, it seems like our transmission is slipping.
Al is in Warren, Ohio. Line for Republicans. Al, good morning.
Hello, good morning. For the naive callers out there, Donald Trump's not going nowhere, just like the lady said. Look at Clinton. He was impeached. He finished out his office. We'll go back to the Sessions guy. Hillary Clinton, Comey, they all have to say that, because you can't let conversations between the president go out in the open. And the Democrats wanted this an open session for session, just so they could grandstand like that African-American woman. They won't even let them answer the question. See, this is people, you know what? They're not getting any more votes as Democrats. They're actually losing them. I talked to a few guys, and they're Democrats, and they're saying this is getting old, big time old to them. This is garbage. We need to get back. And I think America's gone. We're not ever going to get together again. This last 8 years that we had, they divided us so bad, and now it's going to be even worse. So the American people got a lot. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And my opinion, I don't think it's going to get any better, because you got these people. They're really ripping each other, and if this keeps up.
So where does it lead if it doesn't get better, Al?
I tell you the truth, I don't know. I'm confused. When Republicans for 8 years were ragging on Mr. Obama, it was about his policies. The Democrats are ragging on Trump because of him. They hate him with such a disdain because their loved one Hillary didn't make. You know what's going to happen if we keep this up? Well, I don't want to say it on national TV. That's all there is to it. It's sort of like back in the 1800s. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
That's Al in Warren, Ohio. As Attorney General Jeff Sessions, former Senator Sessions, was testifying, he was not the only Trump cabinet official on Capitol Hill yesterday. President Trump's top diplomat and his Pentagon chief defended the administration's plan to cut U.S. aid programs, argued for keeping the door open to Russia cooperation, and offered a sobering assessment of the Afghan war on Tuesday in a round of Capitol hearings on the White House's 2018 budget proposal for the State Department and Defense Departments. That was Rex Tillerson of the State Department. Secretary Mattis of the Defense Department was in that hearing talking about the Pentagon budget, and Senator John McCain shared some frustration with him at that hearing about the administration's lack of a firm plan for winning the war in Afghanistan.
When can we expect the Congress of the United States to get a strategy for Afghanistan that is a departure from the last 8 years, which is don't lose?
I believe by mid-July, we'll be able to brief you in detail, sir. We're putting it together now, and there are actions being taken to make certain that we don't pay a price for the delay. But we recognize the need for urgency, and your criticism is fair, sir.
Well, I'm a great admirer of yours, Mr. Secretary, and so are those men and women who have had the honor of serving under you. But we just can't keep going like this. You can't expect us to fulfill the three requirements that you gave: funding increase, pass a budget, present a stable budget, if you don't give us a strategy. And I hope you understand that I'm not criticizing you, but there are problems within this administration. I was confident that within the first 30 to 60 days, we would have a strategy from which to start working. So all I can tell you is that unless we get a strategy from you, you're going to get a strategy from us. And I appreciate our wisdom and knowledge and information and all of the great things, with the exception of some to my left here. But the fact is, it's not our job. It's not our job. It's yours.
And a reminder, today on Capitol Hill, the Secretary of State Rex Tillerson will be before the House Foreign Affairs Committee. That's happening at 9 o'clock. You can see it on C-SPAN 3. Back to your calls. Russell, Rock Island, Illinois, Democrat. Your thoughts on yesterday's testimony?
Good morning. I read that session was very evasive. He wasn't really telling the truth. Just like the gentleman said before, every time a Democrat asked him a question, he was very defensive. When a Republican asked a question, he sat there and smiled and laughed. But actually, him and the president have something. They've done something, because he don't want to talk about it. If they didn't do anything, why are they so ashamed to answer the questions? I mean, that's the law. I mean, they should have been able to ask the questions. They're just making a mockery of the Senate. And the guy is talking about that the president is not going anywhere. Yes, he is. He's going to send himself out with his big mouth tweeting. He's making America not great, America look bad. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's starting to get embarrassing. You listen to him every day with his rants, don't know what he's talking about. He lie about every single thing he ever said. I mean, this is the lyingest man I ever known in my life, let alone a president. He's just a straight liar. He can't tell the truth for nothing. That's the problem I have with him. If he just tell the truth, it'd be all right. And the other guy's talking about they railed against Obama's policy. From day one election, Mitch McConnell said, we're going to make this man a one-term president. Do you remember that? Republicans never helped Obama do anything, nothing at all. But this guy here, he's ruining himself. He's bringing himself down. Won't nobody do it. He's doing himself. He's putting himself out of office with little crooked ideas, and he's not upping up on his business. He's getting money from Russia. He's Russian collusion. All
right, Russell, got your point. Ken is in Shreveport, Louisiana, an independent. Ken, good morning.
Morning, Sean. My question is a generic question, not about Sessions or Holder or Trump or John Mitchell or any attorney general. But at the convention in Philly in 1787, Madison, Hamilton, Franklin, many thought an independently elected attorney general would be better. Not Hamilton. We elect our parish or county in Louisiana. District attorney, we elect the state attorney general in most states. I'm just asking in general, Sean, if there's been any serious thought to amending the Constitution. It would have been a whole lot better in Watergate to have had an independently elected AG than John Mitchell. I'm just curious about electing instead of appointing. The president could still have his or her solicitor general. But my goodness, if you're beholden to the person who appointed you, confirmed by the Senate, you're going to kind of give them the legal rulings they ask. Thank you.
Ken, stick around. We're going to be talking with former Senator Jim DeMint, the former head of the Heritage Foundation. He's now gone to work for a group that's looking to call an Article 5 convention to talk about amending the Constitution. So we'll talk about that process with him when he joins us in our 9 o'clock hour this morning. Lakeisha, Houston, Texas, Republican, go ahead.
Yes, I'm a conservative Republican, and I would like to say, in answer to the question is, I would give him a grade of F. If Senator Cotton can ask him a question about a fictional movie about Jason Bourne, and he can answer yes or no, and when Senator Harris asked him a specific question that required a yes or no answer about policy, about what he did, what he remembers, what occurred, and he can't answer that question directly. If she asks him questions about, will you supply us with the information or notes or anything, if it's liable, he won't give a yes or no answer. That's an F in my book. I'm about facts. I'm about information. And when you start or when you try to justify saying that I'm not going to answer these questions, so I'm just going to go around it and say what I want to say and speak on some speaking points, that gives you a grade in F. You're an attorney general. If you're an attorney general, you should know the policy of the United States of America. You look inefficient in your job when you do not know policy and you can't state which policy won't allow you to answer certain questions.
That's Lakeisha in Houston, Texas. Randy, Millington, Michigan. Line for Democrats. Go ahead.
Good morning, John. I'd like to start by thanking you and all the men and women behind the scenes that we don't see for, well, I guess now with your 360 camera we will, but for all the other men and women that bring us this great program, thank you. You're doing the nation a great service. I have to follow along with the lady that just called. What bothered me about the Attorney General was he wasn't briefed on the Russian thing. He didn't seem to have, and he's the top attorney. I mean, I'm only a high school graduate, so the lawyer stuff, they're way up above my pay grade, but it just seemed to be convenient memory loss, or either that or is it early signs of Alzheimer's? I don't know. His short-term memory sure seemed to be pretty bad on it, and the people, we deserve that. I know politics are tough enough as it is, but at least give me answers when it's the top attorney. As a lawyer, I need to know, I can't have you coming up with, like the lady said with the policy, you come at me with a policy that says I can't answer the question, then you can't tell me the policy? That one right there is like, okay, that's a pretty big red flag for me when you're telling me, looking me in the eye and telling me, well, I can't answer your question because of this policy. All right, I'll buy that answer, but tell me what the policy is. Well, I don't know it.
It's 8 o'clock on the East Coast. Want to give our viewers an update on some disturbing news that's affecting members of Congress from the Hill newspaper. Just a few minutes ago, a report, a shooting near a Congressional baseball game practice field. The Congressional baseball game, for those that don't know, an annual event where Republican members of Congress play Democratic members of Congress. This is the season in which they're practicing for that game. The Hill reporting this morning, a shooting reported Wednesday near that Congressional baseball practice field. A reporter from the Huffington Post tweeted that a congressman said he heard that there was a shooting at the Congressional baseball game practice. ABC 7 News reporting multiple shootings in the 400 block of East Monroe Street. That's in the Alexandria, Virginia area of Virginia. The suspect is believed to be in custody, ABC reported, according to the Alexandria Police. We can take you to the Alexandria Police Twitter page and the updates that they've been giving this morning. Alexandria Police Department investigating multiple shootings in that area. Suspect believed in custody. Stay away from area. Let emergency vehicles through. The public information officer headed to the scene. Updates will be posted when available. And we will continue to look for updates on that story affecting members of Congress. Some tweets from some news producers about this. This is what was posted by Lauren Pikoff of Fox News. At 7:15, she writes, a gunman with a rifle began firing at the GOP baseball practice. Steve Scalise, the congressman from Louisiana, she says, shot in the hip. This is in Alexandria, Virginia. This is per Chad Pergram, who is a Fox News producer. Other staffers hit. He writes, he wrote about Scalise being hit, the gunman with a rifle. So we will continue to update you on that as we get more information this morning. We'll keep taking your calls as we look for that information. Betty, Westminster, Maryland, Independence, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Go ahead, Betty.
Hi. Okay. I just want to comment about all the situations at the Russia situation. I tried to call you guys many, many times and never answer. Well, what my personal opinion is, you guys are a little brainwashed for this president, because I know you and sometimes do good things for them, but most of the time, instead to say all the good stuff that this president is doing, you just keep on pushing Russia, Russia, Russia. Enough with the freaking Russia. That is enough. Taking care for the country. I'm a Latino person, and I can see this is a very good president. Very good president. He's doing an awesome job, and you guys have to taking care for the country first, then instead of thinking about Russia and Democrat or Republican or whatever.
Betty, can I ask who you mean by you guys? Are you talking about the news media? Are you talking about C-SPAN in particular?
The news media, NBC, CBS, and you guys are in brainwashed, because every single day when I'm listening to you guys, most of 80 or 90% is comments about freaking Russia. Why don't you guys talk about all the good stuff that he's doing it? Why? You don't love your country?
Betty, we're talking about it today because the Attorney General of the United States testified in an open hearing before the Senate Intelligence Committee yesterday. It was the focus of a lot of attention on Capitol Hill. We wanted to bring our viewers it, as we always do, in its entirety. So you can check it out at cspan.org. And this is your forum this morning to talk about it, what you thought about it, what you thought about his testimony, and the questions asked by the members of Congress who were there. So we're taking your calls this morning. Ray, Coos Bay, Oregon, line for Republicans. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, John. And let me just say kudos to C-SPAN. I've listened to y'all over the years, and you're so dead in the middle. You don't have an opinion. You let us speak our opinion, and I just can't say how happy I am about that. Secondly, happy birthday to the president today, 71 years. I hope I'm as spry in a few more years when I reach that age. I had a couple of comments about Comey from last week and then the Attorney General yesterday. I'm not going to get into any kind of a character assassination. I listened to actually what they said. I don't see Sessions. It was good for Sessions to be able to defend himself, where he was being thought of as he's a Russian in Putin's pocket because he was standing in some sort of a reception line. I don't know if they thought that there was some high burst blinking of Morse code going on as they passed. It's just inconceivable. And the only meeting he ever had with the Russian ambassador was in the function of his Senate office with aides there, and respectable aides. And I'm sure that those aides are going to be witnesses sometime to be able to corroborate that there was no nefarious activity going on. As far as Comey, last week he had pointed out that the president had actually endorsed him trying to find satellites or people that were associated with his campaign. If they did anything wrong, he wanted that pursued. And as you have an upcoming guest, I believe, a Democrat, I just would like you to ask them, why is it that every time that they're trying to throw out this obstruction of justice, they say it was because the president is trying to stop the Russian investigation? Well, clearly, his aggravation with Comey was that Comey would not bring into the sunshine that the president was not part of any investigation, and that it was that by keeping that cloud on top of his administration, it was stressing out millions of people across the United States, as news pundits were using that as trying to say there's something wrong. Lastly, again, I just love the opportunity to be able to talk to C-SPAN and get my voice out there. But I'd like to know why Democrats are saying obstruction of justice. He tried to stop the investigation. Clearly, he did not try to stop the investigation when he told the NBC News person that it was the Russian thing. Specifically, it's so obvious he was talking that Comey would not bring into the sunshine that he was not a part of any investigation.
Got your point, Ray. We do indeed have a member of Congress coming on, Congressman Don Beyer, although a scary morning for members of Congress, and we're still trying to learn the extent of this shooting that took place in one of the neighborhoods in Alexandria near here, where members of Congress were practicing for the Congressional baseball game. According to reports, a gunman opening up fire on that practice about an hour ago. The local ABC station WJLA reporting that medevacs have been called to the multiple shooting near that baseball field in Alexandria on Wednesday morning. Police say the suspect is in custody, and the Alexandria Fire Department say that there are various degrees of injury. We're trying to find more details on that as they are being posted, but the members of Congress at that field practicing for the upcoming Congressional baseball game. It was the Republican team that was practicing there, that has practiced there for several years now for this annual event. So we'll keep you updated this morning as we take your calls. Dee Dee, Anchorage, Alaska, Democrat. Did you watch the hearing yesterday?
Yes, I did.
And what'd you think?
You mean about what you mean with Attorney General Sessions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I think that he is not very credible. I think that there's a reason he's withholding it, and I think the senator should have asked him if he had pledged loyalty to Donald Trump, because he doesn't represent the president. He had no reason to withhold his answers. It sounds like Rod Rosenstein was more forthcoming and said that he had been peppered with questions from the Russians, and I think that Jeff Sessions was protecting the president. And it's not his job to do that. He represents the American people.
And Dee Dee, what do you think of the senators asking the questions yesterday?
I thought the questions were good. I thought they did a good job with that. I just wish they had asked him if he had pledged loyalty, because he asked Comey, so I'm sure he asked all of his administration. I just really feel he did, and he had his big public meeting with all of them praising him. I think that he asked all of them to pledge loyalty, and I don't think that's appropriate for a president. For anybody, for any boss, you pledge loyalty is, you should be loyal if you work for somebody, but to expect it, I don't think that's appropriate for the president.
That's Dee Dee in Alaska. More from yesterday's hearing, this exchange between the Attorney General and Senator Feinstein, Democrat from California.
On May 19th, Mr. Rosenstein, in a statement to the House of Representatives, essentially told them that he learned on May 8th that President Trump intended to remove Director Comey. When you wrote your letter on May 9, did you know that the president had already decided to fire Director Comey?
Senator Feinstein, I would say that I believe it's been made public that the president asked us our opinion. It was given, and he asked us to put that in writing. I don't know how much more he said about it than that, but I believe he has talked about it, and I would let his words speak for themselves.
Well, on May 11th, on NBC Nightly News, 2 days later, the president stated he was going to fire Comey regardless of the recommendation. So I'm puzzled about the recommendation because the decision had been made. So what was the need for you to write a recommendation?
Well, we were asked our opinion, and when we expressed it, which was consistent with the memorandum and letter we wrote. I felt comfortable, and I guess the Deputy Attorney General did too, in providing that information in writing.
So do you concur with the President that he was going to fire Comey regardless of recommendation because the problem was the Russian investigation?
Senator Feinstein, I guess I'll just have to let his words speak for himself. I'm not sure what was in his mind explicitly when we talked with him.
And we're going to continue to take your calls on this topic, your reaction to yesterday's hearing. 202-748-8001 if you're a Republican, 202-748-8000 if you're a Democrat. Independents, 202-748-8002. We also want to keep you updated on that developing story out of Alexandria, Virginia, just across the river, where members of the Republican Congressional baseball team were having their practice. One of the latest reports coming in from CBS News: multiple people injured in a shooting in Alexandria, Virginia Wednesday morning. CBS News has learned that the shooting happened in the dugout field used for congressional baseball practice. 4 people shot and 1 congressman shot in the hip. A congressional source says that the injured include 2 Capitol Hill police officers, the gunman, and House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, Republican from Louisiana. Park Police spokeswoman Anna Rose told WUSA that they're using one of their Eagle helicopters to medevac the injured, but that the Alexandria Police Department is handling the incident. Again, a developing story that we'll keep you up to date on as more news comes from that. Barbara, Crockett, Texas, Independent, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I've been following all this on C-SPAN since it started. I thought when this first started that we were investigating the Russian interference in our elections. Now, Bloomberg came out with a report yesterday that stated that Russia had infiltrated 34 states on, I believe it was their database. I'm not too sure. I'm thinking that all these hearings, when it changed to Trump's campaign being involved with Russia, I do not know. But when it started out, we were trying to figure out why Russia did this and how they did it. And I think that we're doing questions on the wrong thing. Thankfully, Russia did not get into the databases, but you take 34 states, I think the investigation should be, how did Russia do this? How can we stop them? Because it's been proven that the Trump administration didn't have any collusion. Trump wasn't involved. That's all been cleared up by Comey. But I think we're pressing on the wrong thing and doing a witch hunt on people when we should be concentrating on Russia and how to stop this in the future, because this is very detrimental to our system of picking our elected officials. And I just think we're on the Congress is on the wrong road. That's my opinion.
All right, Sergio, Greenville, South Carolina, Republican. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good morning to you. Just wanted to say that I really believe that this is just another opportunity for the left to obstruct a lot of what is being done now to promote not only our country forward, but the American people. I think that the reason that this whole hearing sounds like a hoax is because it really is. There's really nothing there. And it's a bunch of made-up garbage, and they keep picking and prodding, and it just, everything keeps exposing itself. And, you know, we need to quit this nonsense, because regardless of whether we're Democrats or Republicans, we are Americans, and we need to promote our country. But these obstructionists, you know, are doing our country and our people a big disservice by just
not promoting our country, but more like just being so negative about everything. And if you listen to their comments, a lot of it's just targeted remarks that have absolutely no foundation or basis. Even the questioning yesterday from the left was so ridiculous. And if they want to bring up a point, why don't they bring up the point that Comey actually lied when he was on the bench and caught himself in a lie? He said that he was motivated to document on the 11th some of the tweets that Trump had made. When the investigation came out, Comey had to retract on what he said because actually Donald Trump had not tweeted on the 11th. He had tweeted on the 12th. So that right there came out another flat-out lie. And just like a lot of the remarks from the left and the liberal media, it's just so absolutely ridiculous. Why don't we just get over the crybabies and just move over and just move forward with our country, because we are in need of some serious leadership, and we actually have a president now that actually is desiring to promote the American people and our agendas instead of selling out like our last administration did. Thank you, and have a nice day.
On the developments from that shooting in Alexandria, Sean Spicer, the press secretary at the White House, of course, tweeting out this morning that both the president and the vice president are aware of the developing situation in Virginia. Our thoughts and prayers are with all affected. Fox News, in their reporting this morning, noting, as we've said, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise shot in the hip, and at least one other aide also shot in the chest, they're reporting, by a gunman with a rifle who opened fired at that baseball practice that was happening this morning. Police tweeted that they believe that the gunman in custody. Senator Mike Lee told Fox News, however, that the gunman was dead. He said a staffer used a belt as a tourniquet to help stop Scalise's bleeding. Both the shots were reported in East Monroe Street in the Delray, Alexandria area of Virginia at about 7:30 this morning, the location near a YMCA and the baseball fields there. Scalise is 51 years old. He's the House Majority Whip. He's represented Louisiana's 1st congressional district since 2008 and chairs the House Republican Study Committee. He's married with 2 children, and his district includes New Orleans. Again, we'll keep you updated on that developing story happening about an hour ago at this point, and police activity and the police sending out updates, and we'll give them to you as they happen. Teresa, Jersey City, New Jersey, Democrats, good morning.
Yes, I believe that Comey was telling the truth. He said things that implicated himself. That's how much he was telling the truth. Donald Trump would never say anything, or Sessions would never say anything that would implicate themselves, because they lie. They lie all the time, and I can't believe that these Republicans believe everything that they say. And what I really wanted to know is, where are the Tea Party people? Since Donald Trump came into office, I haven't heard hide nor hair of them. Obama couldn't go around the corner with a pair of hush puppies on with his family, and they would say he was spending a lot of money going on vacation. But his wife could stay in New York, and we spend millions of tax dollars for her to stay in New York, and no Tea Party person has said anything. Where are they? You used to have them on your show. They every time Obama did anything, he's spending money. So that's why.
Teresa, bring it back to the hearing yesterday.
They're liars. Sessions is a liar. Like I said, Comey served under Democrat. He served under Republican. And
what do you think he specifically lied about yesterday?
He lied about, well, first of all, he and Donald Trump never did even question anything about the Russians hacking our democratic system. I mean, he's the head lawman in the United States, and he doesn't even question that. He's a liar, and I feel like if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a duck.
All right, got your point, Teresa. Mike, Claiborne, Georgia, line for independence. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm a little concerned for our country. I know we got some Democrats that's corrupt, but this bunch we got in there now, they act like they don't know what's going on,
If they don't, then it's criminal negligence. And at the very least, whether they're guilty of commission or omission, if it wasn't for the useful idiots we got up there pushing all this garbage, it would come right out in the open. They're public servants. They don't have conversations that don't belong to us. Now, they might have something to do with national security, but I can't for the life of me see how any of this has got anything to do with national security, except that our elections have been hacked, and we knew that. The Republicans showed them how. They did it when they got Bush in. They did it with their servers in Ohio and Tennessee. I mean, our elections, we got to go back to paper, and we got to go back to citizen initiatives because they're not going to bring anything up that's useful for the American people. Until we take this thing by ourselves and start organizing amongst ourselves, these clowns are going to play us like a $2 fill. I don't know what anybody even. I can't imagine how anybody could stand up there and believe anything that was said yesterday.
Thought you were done. Warren is in Avon Park, Florida. Line for Republicans. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. I just wanted to say Jeff Sessions is a good man. Obviously, he didn't lie. It's been going on for a year. Nothing's happened. Let it go. Stop wasting our money. And to the Democrats, put all of your energy that you're putting to all this BS to us and take care of this country like the Republicans are trying to do. Why do you people, because you don't like somebody, you don't like the president, so you're going to destroy this country? Get on board and do your job or get fired.
Warren, our last caller in this segment of the Washington Journal. Again, more headlines coming out about that shooting in Alexandria, Virginia. We'll keep you updated, but here's one from the New York Times. Member of Congress reportedly shot. That would be Steve Scalise, the majority whip of the House of Representatives, who's being reported to have been shot at that practice for the Congressional baseball game. The picture there showing the helicopter arriving on the scene of the shooting in Alexandria, Virginia. We're going to be talking with the congressman from Alexandria, Virginia, Don Beyer, coming up in just a minute here on the Washington Journal, and we'll certainly ask about any developments we know at this point. We'll be right back.
Washington Journal continues.
We're joined now by Congressman Don Beyer, Democrat from Virginia, from Alexandria, Virginia, the district that is actually home to the baseball field where this shooting happened this morning, where, according to reports, the majority whip has been injured in that shooting. What updates can you give us at this point?
John, I just don't know very much. I mean, really, we're just learning about it from Twitter, and hopefully the Alexandria police will come through pretty quickly. All I've heard so far is about 50 shots fired. It was a heavyset white man with a rifle. Apparently, Steve Scalise was hit in the hip. God, we just hope and pray that everybody's okay and that there won't be any deaths. But I've heard that up to 5 people were actually injured and taken away.
And what sort of updates do you get from the Capitol Police in these sort of situations, especially when it's your district?
Well, it's never happened to me before, so I don't know. And I think they're probably going to turn first to the leadership, to the Speaker, to Nancy Pelosi and the like, rather than me. So I'll do my best just to stay informed if I can contribute. I don't want to interfere, obviously.
I know your plan is to get there this morning, and we appreciate you coming by to talk about it. Do you feel safe as a member of Congress?
I did, although my wife is a little freaked out right now. Because the first thoughts was Congressman shot in Delray.
That's the neighborhood where this happened.
Yeah, which is Alexandria I represent. I know it's your home too. It's scary when it happens anywhere in the country, but it's even scarier when it happens at home. And one of the things that I put in every little stump speech I give is that sometimes if you just watch Fox News or MSNBC, you think that everyone on Capitol Hill hates everybody else. The Democrats and Republicans won't ride in an elevator together. And nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, most people treat everyone with respect, with friendship. Most everybody knows their names. One of our pastors in Falls Church gave the opening prayer at the house yesterday. And Paul Ryan was presiding and came back and did a photo with the pastor. And Paul called me Don. I didn't even know that he knew my name. All right. So it's actually, we may vote very differently and have strong, different opinions about policy, but people generally are pretty good to each other. And so it's so very upsetting and very terrible to see some of that strife, for whatever reason, spill over into gun violence.
And of course, we don't know anything about the suspect, or we're still learning the updates about the shooting as well. We'll give our viewers updates as it happens. The latest from the Alexandria Police Public Information Officer from Twitter. The suspect is indeed in custody, not a threat. The Public Information Office will be on scene shortly to continue to share updates, and so we'll bring those to our viewers. Are you concerned about the discourse in this country and the level of anger in the discourse in this country? Not to say whether it was involved at all in this shooting, but is it on your mind today?
It certainly is on my mind, John. And we have to try to find a balance. It's important to speak out strongly, not stridently, but clearly on things that concern us. For example, I'm very much against the president's decision to pull out of the Paris Peace Accords. I think that's a terrible policy decision, terrible philosophical decision. But you don't want to over-characterize it and say that everyone is evil. Similarly, we're having this big debate over health care right now. I don't think the Affordable Care Act's perfect, but boy, it's brought health care to 22 million people and done wonderful things for pre-existing condition. And the Republicans have a different idea, which I don't like. But at the same time, you don't want to tear down the individual or tear down the institution while we have a difficult, meaningful, important debate about how healthcare goes forward in the country. I really do think that it's important that our language be positive, that we can continue to look for constructive ways. I disagree with the president on many, many things, but when he does something right, I think it's also my responsibility. For example, when they merged the medical health care records, electronic health care records at the Veterans Affairs last week with the Department of Defense's, so it'll be seamless for people active duty and then veterans. That's a really good thing, and we need to celebrate those kinds of things.
I wonder your thoughts on this happening at a practice for the Congressional baseball game. The Congressional baseball game, for viewers that don't know, a tradition, one of the places where members from both sides of the aisle come together, and there's a lot of collegial banter, and it's traditionally one of the positive moments of the summer for Congress.
Yeah, that's particularly sad. It's going to be sad anytime, anywhere. But this especially, I think the stadium gets largely sold out tomorrow night.
It's at
Raises
the Nationals
Yeah,
baseball
Nationals
stadium.
Park, yeah, lots and lots of money. I went after the Democratic team this year, but I think I was way the worst player on the field. But just going to the practices alone was really fun in terms of the sense of community that emerges from it. And obviously, when you get people on a field, you see them in a whole different way, and in a positive way.
Anytime after a shooting like this, I know you're somebody who is a strong advocate of more gun control. Is that something on your mind today?
Yeah, although this is probably the worst possible time to try to make a gun control argument. First of all, it was a rifle rather than the kinds of things that we're trying to control. It'll be interesting to see who the shooter was. You know, so many of these cases are people with mental illness, from the Reagan shooter through Cho at Virginia Tech, and I don't want to characterize it because we don't really know, but it may be. Especially with a rifle, which is not typically one of the things that's in the front part of the gun debate, is how did he buy it and when. But those are further discussions. We do, I think all of us, Democrat and Republican, would like to see much less gun violence than we have. I met with the Suicide Accident Prevention people yesterday. That's 22,000 gun deaths a year from suicide, or suicide from gun in America. And that's about 2/3 of it overall. So we need to work together to keep trying to find ways to work forward without upsetting the Constitution.
You're in your second term?
Second term, yeah.
How well do you know Steve Scalise?
Not at all. I mean, I've said hi to him passing in the hall. I don't think I've ever had an actual conversation with him. There's 435, and unless you're on the same committee or on the same hall, it's not easy to get to know people. We tend to have 3.5-day weeks. You come in Monday night and they're gone Thursday. And I also have the huge advantage of living 15 minutes from the Capitol, but it's the huge disadvantage too that I tend to go have events in the district every night rather than having dinner on Capitol Hill with all the guys and the gals. So.
How much training do you get from the Capitol Police after you become a member of Congress in terms of safety and potential threats that could happen as you're out doing your business as a member of Congress?
Yeah, I don't remember getting much training at all from the Capitol Police. I was ambassador to Switzerland and Liechtenstein, and we did have 3 or 4 days of security training there. It was in Switzerland. It wasn't really very dangerous, but they always warned us that people like ISIS and Al Qaeda would look for the soft targets. It was tough to get into the past the walls in Iraq, but downtown Bern would be pretty easy. So the little things like always being aware of is anybody following you or watching you, who's been living across the street, taking different routes every time. We took the diplomatic tags off our car in Switzerland.
Even in Switzerland?
Yeah, I had a personal car, just because you didn't want people to know that you were the American ambassador and becoming a target. But frankly, I've never worried about it here. You sometimes know that, it seems to be once a month there's an incident on Capitol Hill, and the Capitol Police just do a really, really good job of protecting us.
Some reports that they might have been some of those who were shot in that exchange. We'll look for the latest information as we go forward. We're talking with Congressman Don Beyer, Democrat of Virginia. His home district is Alexandria, Arlington, the Alexandria area where that shooting happened at that baseball field. Republicans, it's 202-748-8001 to call in. Democrats, 202-748-8000. Independents, 202-748-8002. Invited you on to talk about Jeff Sessions' testimony yesterday.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your reaction to that while you're here.
Well, I know I saw Senator Warner last night. We were at the Ralph Northam victory party, and he seemed pretty frustrated by it, that they wanted so many more answers from Senator Sessions than he was willing to come forward with. I think Mark pushed back and said that he would never want to hold Senator Sessions in contempt of Congress, contempt of the Senate, but that there's so much more that is there that they were unable to extract from the senator. So,
and what more did you need to hear from him in that testimony?
I think the key thing was trying to confirm and characterize the conversations that he had with the president, which we were getting indirectly both through the president's tweets and from Comey's testimony.
Let's get the viewers involved. Mary's up first, Magnolia Springs, Alabama. Line for Independence, talking with Congressman Don Beyer. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, Congressman. I'm very upset right now. I feel sorry for your people in Alexandria and the congressman. But we are now harvesting the hate that's going on in this country. You look like you're a man that probably lived through the assassinations of the 1960s, starting with our dear president and ending with Bobby and Martin. I do not go for violence or hatred. If you want to talk politics, talk politics. But when we see a comedian on CNN behead a president and put it online, when we see Central Park put on a Shakespearean play and stabbing and even attacking the First Lady, I mean, this has gone overboard. And now we got permission to go and start shooting down congressmen. I mean, the violence and the hate speech, it goes one to another. I'm 70 years old, and I'll be damned if I'm going to go through another assassination of a president or any other political figure. I did not go for it when I did not support Reagan when he was running, and my dear friend called me the day that he was shot, and I dropped the phone, and she said, "But Mary, you don't like Reagan." I said, "He's the president of the United States. You don't do this."
Mary, thanks for your call.
Yeah, thank you,
Congressman.
Mary. Yeah, well, she's absolutely right. It's it's interesting. When we lived in Europe, the Europeans are much more. They don't have a First Amendment clause on freedom of speech, so they really do criminalize hate speech in many places. We tend to be much more. The answer to poor speech is more speech, but I do think, while respecting the Constitution, every one of us in a leadership position, every American should minimize the hate speech. We can disagree in polite, respectful ways. We can make strong arguments. We can get angry and upset, but the notion of bringing forth violence or hatred is absolutely unacceptable.
Trying to add some more information to this. Chad Pergram is on Capitol Hill, often a Fox News producer, has been following this. His tweets from this morning saying that the Capitol Police are on scene with the long guns at that congressional baseball practice where the shooting happens. It started at about 7:15, he says. The gunman approached the dugout with a rifle, and it went on for 10 minutes. The Department of Homeland Security monitoring that shooting, and 3 minutes ago he tweeted out, quoting the president, saying that this is a tragedy. Our thoughts and prayers are with the members of Congress, their staff, Capitol Police, first responders.
Yeah, well said. And Chad's another Alexandrian who lives not far from Delray. You know, John, one of the ironies, as you know, is Delray is one of the most wonderful communities in America. The shopping, the restaurants, they have the best Halloween parade I think I've ever seen. I hope you've been in it, but not only do you have the sort of the normal things you'd have in a parade, but by the end, every family is in it.
And a neighborhood that has now seen this shooting take place this morning. Harry is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Republican, good morning.
Good morning. I asked you a couple questions. You seem like a pretty honest guy. Do you think, one question, do you think the language used by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer aren't causing any kind of hate in this country? The other thing is MSNBC, CNN, they call names, they glorified this play in the park. They seem to, when Black Lives Matter, they make heroes of them. I think they're accomplices in this, and I think finally they're getting what they tried to get. They're getting this guy that went to the field asked if they were Republicans or Democrats. He said they were Republicans. 5 minutes later, he wrote shots on them. I think.
Harry, want to say that's not something we've seen reported here, and this is a still developing story, so we want to be careful with the information that we put out. But your point is taken, Congressman.
And Harry, I don't want to try to take apart any given person's language, but the larger point you make, Harry, is absolutely right, is that we need to find constructive, polite, appropriate ways to disagree. These debates are important. And we get to better policies for America by having these debates. but it's really a bad idea to characterize individuals as evil.
Do you think those ways of disagreeing that it's gotten worse in recent years, and if so, why?
You know, sometimes it seems that it has, but if you go, I'm old enough to remember Vietnam. They were pretty tough then. And if you read American history, boy, the John Adams, Thomas Jefferson stuff 270 years ago was awful, or how long ago that was, 220 years ago. So it's always been difficult. We haven't caned anybody in the House floor recently, but there have been fistfights over the years.
How does it get better?
You know, one person at a time. And yeah, because I don't think this is something you can legislate. As it mentioned, they do in Europe. I think that the better all of our leaders, beginning with the president, can, and I think Barack Obama, I'm trying to think of any contrary example, you know, was very good, as I think George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George Herbert Walker Bush, I mean, president after president, I think have comported themselves in, you know, pretty respectable, even noble ways. You know, good to their families, clear language, you know, great professions of well. And our mayor before our current Alison Silberberg was Bill Ewell, who was born and raised in the projects in Alexandria. First in his family to graduate from high school, first to go to college, and ended up leading a very important city for a long time.
Philip, Burtonsville, Maryland, Democrat. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. My prayer goes to all my brothers and sisters in Alexandria, and this is not what we are noted for. We are noted for peace. We are noted for unity. We are noted for as one family. But I just want to make one comment, because I still believe that the president is to take all the blame in all what is happening in our democracy today. Because if from day one, he sit every Republican and Democrat together and unite them and talk to them heart to heart, and let's move this country forward, we wouldn't have been in this situation where we are today, where names are being called here and there, and even calling them obstructionists and all those kind of things. It doesn't help. It helps to dig into the wounds that he's trying to heal. I just want somebody to talk to him, as a father, as a commander, as a head of this whole nation, that this is the way we should unite the whole country together so that we stop all this whole thing. It doesn't help us to move forward at all.
Congressman.
Great. Well, Philip, I largely agree with you all. I don't think it's at all appropriate to blame the president for what happened this morning. But we always want leaders who are uniters. I thought for me, the most attractive part of the Barack Obama message in 2008 was his vision of a post-partisan America. And we're not there yet. But we need all of our leaders to continue to try to bring people together, find common ground, have the meaningful debates, but lift people up rather than push people down. Michelle Obama said it really well, that when they go low, they not being Republicans, they just being others, we together need to go high.
Last call for you, Kendall, San Diego, California. Line for Republicans. Kendall, go ahead.
Hi. My question is, do you really honestly think Kamala Harris was respectful yesterday? I mean, that was ridiculous. That was insulting, both to women, Democrats, and the American people. In addition, I would like to know, what is it the Democrats plan on taxes? I haven't heard a tax proposal yet from a Democrat in, 10, 20 years.
Congressman, give you a chance to respond in our last minute.
Kendall, there are a variety of tax proposals, but right now the Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the U.S. House of Delegates. So we're more reacting to the tax proposals that come out of the White House and the Ways and Means Committee. And it's been tough sledding. Right now, basically the Ryan proposal is to have a border adjustment tax, hit 20% tax on all imports, which would pay for all the reductions in tax rates that we want to see business and otherwise.
You can finish your thought. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. And Democrats are going to try to adjust those around the edges as best we can.
Well, I know you're interested in hearing the news conference after the shooting.
Please.
So here's the news conference happening down in Alexandria right now.
This is very early on. I want to thank the Alexandria Police, the Sheriff's Office, and the Alexandria Fire Department for their rapid response to the request for assistance and the 911 calls. Appreciate their rapid response, and certainly it saves lives. At this point, we're going to gather the investigators together and look at what we have and put this incident together. Again, it's very early on, and there's a lot of witnesses to be interviewed. Once we have more information, we will certainly pass on whatever information we can to make sure that you have the information you need for your work. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it,
Any threat to the public,
I'm going
Chief?
to turn it back over to the Alexandria Chief.
Thank you, Chief. We're not going to ask it, folks, we're not going to answer any questions at this point because this, as the Chief pointed out, this is an active, ongoing investigation. We call the crime scene hot because we're collecting information and evidence, and it would be premature for us to respond any further. In an hour and a half, we will come back together and give you an update on what we can speak to, and perhaps answer some questions at that
Chief,
time.
any indication
We're
of an
done right
ongoing
now.
shooting? Any other shooters out
This
there?
is a stable situation at this point. There's no additional threat. We consider this incident to be a closed incident under investigation. Thank you very much. We'll be back with you in about an hour and a half. Thank you.
Congressman Don Beyer, just your immediate reaction to that.
No, we didn't really learn much new. That's the first time I've seen our new police chief in action. He apparently came from California, where he ran the CHIPS program. Apparently a really huge, wonderful background. And so I'm confident Capitol Police, Alexandria Police, you can see the Virginia State Police in the background there. They'll do a great job.
Well, Congressman, I know you're itching to get out of here and get there, so we appreciate your time. Thanks for taking some calls this morning.
Thank you, John, very much. Yeah, it's terrific.
And we'll be right back. We're going to end our show today just getting your reaction to this shooting. Reportedly, Steve Scalise hit and injured along with a member of the Capitol Police, a congressional aide, and the gunman shot as well. Getting your reaction this morning. You can start calling in now. We'll be right back.
Washington Journal continues.
And you're looking at a live scene of the baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia, in the Del Rey neighborhood of Alexandria, Virginia, where that shooting occurred this morning, just under 2 hours ago at a congressional baseball game practice. The Republican team has practiced at that field for years. A shooting taking place, reportedly Steve Scalise injured in that shooting, hit in the hip, according to reports. Fox News' Chad Pergram noting that Scalise is at MedStar Hospital in Washington, D.C., undergoing surgery for his hip wound. One female United States Capitol Police detail agent shot as well, also at MedStar in D.C. Also reports of an aide being shot as well, and the gunman being shot. The Alexandria Police Department tweeting out this morning and stating in that press conference just a little bit ago that the shooter is in custody, that it's considered a closed crime scene, but reports of up to 50-some rounds being fired and perhaps taking as long as 10 minutes in that attack on that baseball practice that was happening this morning. It was for the Congressional baseball game. It's an annual event where members of Congress come together, play each other, a Democratic team, a Republican team. It's been going on for decades. Has been sponsored by Roll Call newspaper, one of the Congressional newspapers here in Washington, D.C. These members of Congress practicing for weeks leading up to that game. This was one of the last practices before that game was set to take place, and now this shooting taking place. We want to hear your thoughts, your reaction this morning. Our phone lines are open to do that. You can start calling in 202-748-8000 for Democrats, Republicans 202-748-8001 for Republicans, Independents 202-748-8002. Also want to bring you the latest from the White House. President Trump with his statement on the shooting that happened this morning in Alexandria, Virginia. The Vice President and I are aware of the shooting incident in Virginia and are monitoring developments closely. We are deeply saddened by this tragedy. Our thoughts and prayers are with the members of Congress, their staff, Capitol Police, first responders, and all of those affected. That was the President with his statement early this morning. We're probably going to be hearing more throughout the day. We'll keep you updated in this final hour of the Washington Journal before the House is set to come in at 10 o'clock today. If there's any change to that, we'll bring you an update to that as well. Dave's up first. Circle, Alaska, line for independence. Dave, good morning.
Hi, I'm actually in Barrow, Alaska. It's at the very tippy top of Alaska, furthest north town in the United States. First off, I'd like to say my condolences to the victims of this tragedy this morning. That's something that I don't think anybody wants to see, and I hope it doesn't happen anymore. I hope that's not a trend that we're going to have keep going here in this country. What I wanted to comment on was during the campaign last year, I recall candidate Trump mentioning that maybe somebody should exercise their Second Amendment right on Hillary Clinton. And I don't think that was a very good thing to say, and that possibly that can lead people to think that maybe they should use violence to settle their differences. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Thank you.
Jason, San Diego, California this morning. Go ahead.
Good morning. This is Jason. You know, I hear a lot of people calling about the things that President Trump has done. What he's done is roll back all of President Obama's executive orders. One in particular was people that is been known to be mentally challenged who are receiving any type of money or anything from the government cannot buy a gun. Trump rolled that back and said that mentally challenged people can go out and buy guns just like anybody else. The mental part of the 10 essential parts of the Affordable Care Act, one of them is mental, getting treatment for mental. They've taken that out. So when Trump says he's making America safe, he's doing just the opposite. He's letting crazy people go out and buy guns. God, thank you.
Jason, the president tweeting this morning his reaction. We read his reaction earlier, his official statement, also a tweet just about 20 minutes ago saying that the Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana, a true friend and patriot, was badly injured but will fully recover, the president said. Our thoughts and prayers are with him, from the president's Twitter account at 8:48 a.m. Jack is in California, in Vacaville, California. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I'm listening at all the people calling in about we need to give Donald Trump a chance, and I agree with that. And they're saying that we need to stop the hate and all of this. But people seem to forget that when you say give a person a chance, it was Donald Trump himself. The first time Barack Obama was voted in, he was out there with the birth certificate thing. And that's all, and all of that didn't have nothing to do with Barack Obama's views on politics. It had nothing to do with his policies or nothing, because he didn't have no policy. He was just a senator for a few minutes. So all of that, all of this birther stuff that Donald Trump was doing to make America hate again had nothing to do with no politics. It was simply because President Obama was black. Nobody never came up with a birth certificate for a white president. So when people talk about give Donald Trump a chance, they need to remember nobody as far as Donald Trump gave Barack Obama a chance, and I'm not saying that it should be tit for tat, but don't be calling in acting like just a one-way street, because it is not. And when you listen at all of the hate that's coming from Donald Trump supporters, it's all about, these people be talking about make America great again. Actually, it's making America hate again. Because when the country got divided as far as racial lines and stuff, it all started when Barack Obama became president. And it had nothing to do with no policies. It was all about because he was a black man living in the White House, and they know it, but everybody.
Got your point, Jack. We are taking your calls this morning, your reaction after this shooting that happened between 7:15 and 7:30 this morning. There's the live scene. You're looking east to west across that baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia. It's the Delray neighborhood of Alexandria, Virginia. That's the field that for the past several years Republican members of Congress have used to practice very early in the morning to get ready for the Congressional baseball game, that event, a fundraiser for charity that happens each summer to bring members of Congress together to raise some money for a good cause. It's sponsored by Roll Call, and we are getting your reaction this morning after that shooting. Also want to bring in now Scott Wong, a senior staff writer with the Hill newspaper, to give us the latest details on this investigation and what happened this morning. Scott Wong, just walk us through the facts as we know them right now.
Sure. Thanks for having me. What we know right now is that at least one member of Congress, Majority Whip Steve Scalise of Louisiana, was shot and injured in a shooting that took place at this congressional baseball practice this morning in Alexandria, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. They were gearing up for a congressional charity game. This is a bipartisan game, one of the rare fun bipartisan events that members of Congress participate in every year. This was slated to take place on Thursday at Nationals Park, just down the road from the Capitol. It's unclear whether or not that game will move forward. But more importantly, Steve Scalise has been taken airlifted, I believe, to a local hospital in Alexandria. There were other people who were injured in the shooting, according to reports that I saw on cable TV from eyewitnesses, including some members of the Capitol Police personnel. In fact, Capitol Police just emailed out a statement to members of Congress and chiefs of staff in the Capitol. They said that the Capitol Police is investigating a shooting that occurred off Capitol grounds. The incident involved a member of Congress and USCP personnel. Out of an abundance of caution, Capitol Police have deployed a robust police presence throughout the Capitol complex. However, all buildings within the Capitol complex are open in accordance with routine operations. So that is directly from an email from Capitol Police that just went out a few minutes ago.
Any word from members of Congress you've talked to, or the reporting that the Hill has done on reaction from members of Congress this morning?
It's been fairly quiet. I think people are still gathering information. Again, this was an incident that happened fairly early in the morning. This was the baseball practice that occurred before official business gets going on Capitol Hill. So a lot of members are probably just arriving at the Capitol right now for their regular meetings and committee hearings. So I have not spoken to any specific members of Congress yet. I do have a short list of members who either were confirmed there or that other lawmakers said were there. The people who were at this congressional baseball practice, and again, this was a Republican team baseball practice, even though the game is bipartisan. The members who were at the practice include Brad Wenstrup, Gary Palmer, Mo Brooks, who has been giving interviews from the scene, Roger Williams of Texas. He is one of the baseball coaches of the team. John Molinar from Michigan, And, of course, the two senators that have been giving interviews this morning include Jeff Flake of Arizona and Rand Paul of Kentucky.
Is there anything you can tell us at this point about the shooter? The Alexandria Police Department confirming that he is in custody, that this is considered a closed crime scene at this point, that it's not an active situation at all. We should note that. But what do we know about the shooter?
Well, what we know is that the shooter was walking around the baseball practice prior to the incident itself and talking to people who were participating in the practice, asking, according to some reports I saw, asking whether this was a Democratic or Republican baseball practice. Again, that's unconfirmed, and this investigation is still ongoing. But if that is correct, then it shows there was some targeting of certain members of Congress in this incident. From what we understand, from Jeff Flake, who I saw interviewed, there were 50 to 60 at a minimum shots exchanged between the gunman and Capitol Police. Now, Capitol Police would have been on scene in part because Steve Scalise, the majority whip, the number 3 Republican leader in Congress, always travels with a security detail. And so he would have had his security detail with him. It's unclear if there were other Capitol Police officers brought in simply because there was a large gathering of members gathered off-site. But as I understand it, the shooter was taken down after a exchange of heavy gunfire. At that point, Jeff Flake described, members had been dove under the benches, trying to take cover as bullets are whizzing by. When the shooting stopped, Jeff Flake said he ran out to Steve Scalise in order to apply pressure to his wound, and then at that point, emergency personnel were on scene and able to care for him. Jeff Flake then described reaching in and grabbing Steve Scalise's cell phone in order to call his wife, in order to share news of what had just happened to her husband.
Any reaction from congressional leadership, from the speaker himself?
I have not seen a statement come across. I did see, I'm just getting some news right now from Roger Williams' office. From Mark Walker's office. This is the Republican Study Committee chairman who is slated to take the mound on Thursday and is a star pitcher for the Republicans. He was at practice, his chief of staff tells me, and Mark Walker, the RC chairman, is okay. The president of the United States, Donald Trump, did put out a statement obviously saying that he and the vice president are aware of the situation and obviously wishing all of the folks who were involved in that shooting, including Steve Scalise, well wishes and sending their thoughts and prayers. So the president obviously has been briefed on this situation by his national security team and other top White House officials.
And speaking of prayers, the Hill newspaper, Scott Wong's newspaper, posting on Twitter an image from this morning of the Democratic baseball team praying for their Republican colleagues after the shooting that morning. You can this morning you can see that picture on the Hill's Twitter page. Scott Wong, appreciate the updates this morning. Thanks for taking the time in a busy morning.
Thank you very much.
And again, that's the live scene. You can see the continued police presence there at that baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia. It's about 7 miles from Washington, D.C., down the Potomac River in the Del Rey section of Alexandria, and that's where the shooting took place. Reports of up to 50 rounds exchanged in that attack and response that happened this morning. Taking your calls this morning, getting your reaction until the end of our program. Laura, Walls, Mississippi, Independent. Go ahead.
Good morning. I just called because, first off, I want to comment really quickly on the man that pulled up. I said that about Barack Obama. I would encourage him to go see what his own brother has said. Secondly, I have listened to CNN and MSNBC talk about how they were frightened that Trump supporters could possibly turn violent on journalists. And I listened to them say this over and over and over again because they were, not very encouraging of this administration, to put it mildly. And then, ironically, this morning we see Republicans targeted on a baseball field by someone. I just find that ironic, that it wasn't journalists that were targeted by Trump supporters. It was Republicans targeted by some man that we do not know on a baseball field. And it's just, I just wish that all this would stop. And on top of that, I watched everybody talk about Jeff Sessions stonewalling yesterday in that meeting, and in his trial, in his hearing. But I have gone and watched, and I encourage everybody else to too. Go actually watch the congressional hearings on the EPA, the IRS, and things that happened during Barack Obama's administration. $75,000 spent on 25 bicycles. It's mind-blowing at how many people plead the Fifth. And that's just where I'll leave it. I don't believe media. I go actually watch the hearing and what people say.
Susie is in New Palestine, Indiana this morning. Good morning.
Yes, hello. As much as this is a tragedy, it happens over and over again. And I hope that the GOP takes a long look at what has happened. Maybe they can sympathize with Gabby Giffords and the parents of Newtown. And hopefully this man was not on a no-fly list. Hopefully he wasn't mentally ill. And maybe they can get out of the back pocket of the NRA and finally do something on gun control. As much as this is a tragedy, it's not going to end with this shooting.
Do you think
it's going to keep happening?
Do you think they haven't sympathized when it comes to those incidents, Susie?
No. I've heard several of them say that they thought the whole Newtown thing was a fake and that those parents were actors.
You've heard members of Congress say that?
I've heard members on the Hannity show on Fox News say that they thought it was a hoax. Now, anytime they don't like anything that is against them, it's a hoax. It's fake news. But if it's favorable, then it's true. I'm so sick of this, and I'm so sick of the partisan. But I'm more sick of the shootings and people getting killed and them not doing anything about gun control. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Mark is in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, the line for Republicans. Mark, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I am so upset about this shooting, and the Democrats have been calling in are totally unsympathetic to what's actually been happening here. I mean, you see time after time again over the last 6 months rioting in the streets by the liberals and dressed up as like fascists trying to shut down free speech, burning buildings, destroying property. And then we have the Democrats up on Congress just spewing hatred, calling the president a liar, and that he's in cahoots with the Russians, and just feeding this time after time again. Even the ex-president didn't come out against any of this violence in the street. It's amazing to me. There's not one Democrat that is saying that we need to stop this rhetoric that's being spewed by the liberal media and try to calm this down. It's not the president's fault that this is happening. They're trying to blame him now for this. I mean, they're the ones accusing him of all this stuff and calling him a liar and in these hearings over nothing all the time. What do they expect people to do? This is at a breaking point, this country, and it needs to be brought down. And this is just an accumulation of all the rhetoric that the Democrats and the liberal media have been spewing for the last 6 months.
Mark, did you have a chance to listen to Congressman Don Beyer before this segment?
Yes, I did. And he didn't really say much that I could say. He's more worried about being reelected than helping this country move forward. I mean, he seems like a nice guy. I'm not that familiar with him because I always see the other talking heads that come out on the television shows. But to be honest with you, he needs to step up, too, and say this needs to stop. And he needs to talk to his constituents and also his people he works with and say, listen, this leadership needs to change our path because it's causing violence in this country. And I didn't hear him say that. I might have missed it. I didn't hear the whole thing, but I heard a good portion of it. And that's the problem. Nobody's speaking up and saying, listen, we need to stop with accusing people of lying. We need to stop saying things that aren't true. We need to stop saying it's okay to go in the streets and riot like this. I've never heard not one Democratic leader saying what they're doing in the streets is wrong and it needs to stop. Violence is not the way. They're trying to shut down free speech. and they don't say a word about it. I don't know what's going on here, but the Democrats really need to get up on their game. This is just plain ridiculous what they're doing to this country.
One more tweet to show you this morning. Former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, victim of her own, a victim of the attack on her, and when she was in Tucson, Arizona, being shot in the head. She tweeted out this morning, "My heart is with my former colleagues, their families and staff, and the U.S. Capitol Police, public servants and heroes today and every day," said the former Congresswoman. Mike is in Rochester, Michigan, Republican line. Mike, good morning.
Hi, John. How are you?
Doing all right. Go ahead.
Yes, on this particular issue, obviously this is a tragedy, but this is caused by extremism on both sides of the political spectrum. And currently, the Democrats are really bad news, and they got to get their act together. And the average Democrat has to stop listening to the far left, just like the average Republican really shouldn't listen to the far right wackos. But my other point is there are millions of people in this country that are living with this kind of violence every day, and it seems like we just accept it in our inner cities and so on. And I don't think that should be acceptable. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
How do you change that, Mike?
I have no idea. I really don't. I think the people should just stop accepting this as normal life. That's all. It's unacceptable. I mean, in Chicago last weekend, 6 dead, 42 shot. So this is an everyday occurrence for millions and millions of mostly poor people in this country, and I don't think it should be acceptable. That's all.
Willie is in Indianapolis, Indiana, line for Democrats. Go ahead.
How you doing today, John?
Doing all right. Go ahead.
Well, my comment is that with the health care bill and everything, and the Republicans pushing issues way out to where people who don't already have, I'm middle class. I make a pretty good living myself, but those who don't make a pretty good living, they're in situations where you give them no regard or whatever. And this goes for the Democrats also. If the House doesn't come together and start doing what's right by the people are going to rebel because they have nothing else to do. So we need to come together as a nation and do what's right by the people. If the health care was right, why wouldn't the Congress have the same health care as the people? The people pay their income, so we should have some balance in the protocol of what we do for our citizens, and not just think of ourselves. And like the most of the people that are in Congress living in the gated communities and stuff, eventually it's gonna take the people not having anything to start to invade the gated communities to show their well-being. I believe. I just hope the world comes together. Thank you.
The Washington Post with some reaction and scenes with members of Congress this morning. Congressman Devin Nunes, Republican of California, told the Post that Capitol Police officers walked into the Congressional gym around 7:30 this morning and told members about the shooting, and said that the Majority Whip, Steve Scalise, had been shot. Congressman Mo Brooks tweeted that the shooter attacked the GOP baseball practice with a rifle, 50-plus shots fired, 5 hit, including Steve Scalise. "I am not shot." Brooks told CNN that he heard a loud bam and then behind third base. And then he said, "I see a rifle, I see a little bit of a body, and then I hear another bam, and I realize there's still an active shooter." At the same time, I hear Steve Scalise over at second base screaming that he was shot. Brooks said he ran to the first base side and hit behind the batting cage as gunfire continued. Hid is probably what they meant to write there. He estimated 50 to 100 shots were fired. He said Scalise crawled out of the outfield, leaving a trail of blood, and that he was given liquids and put pressure on his wound. The reporting from Fox News saying that Steve Scalise is at the MedStar Center, Hospital Center in Washington, D.C., undergoing surgery. That attack happening about a little over 2 hours ago, and there's the live scene this morning. Cody's up next. Georgia.
Hello.
Good morning. I'm hearing, and I just first off want to start by saying that my prayers go out to the families of those who are injured today. And I'm listening to the show. I'm watching Washington Journal right now, and all I'm hearing is a lot of people saying that, this could have been the Democrats or this could have been the Republicans. They're talking about Jeff Sessions' meeting for some odd reason. We're supposed to be discussing our reactions to this event. I just think it was horrible what happened. I don't understand why we want to, point the blame at different political parties. The end of the day, people almost lost their lives on that field. And the only way to go about, making the situation not happen again is by working with one another to ensure that there are checks on things like guns. We don't need to be getting up and saying, this could have been the Democrats, or this is mighty odd that the Democrats were saying this about Trump supporters. It's not going to help alleviate anything that's happened. And that's all I really have to say.
How do we come together, Cody?
I would say first by listening to one another. You hear a lot of people giving their perspectives. Some of them are highly just ignorant, and I think that's kind of their fault because they don't do anything to learn. But I feel like the first step is listening to one another. A lot of Americans immediately, they just want to be turned off to the idea of listening to what someone from an opposing side of the political spectrum has to say. Sometimes there are liberals who say, conservatives, they're just this, and this. They want to take money for the rich, or they have trickle-down economics. They want to destroy the middle class. And then conservatives saying things about liberals that are not necessarily true. They're really listening to one another's political views. One thing I've learned is that when this country was formed, our founding fathers didn't even want to have political parties because they understood that bipartisanship was going to create debate and controversy and tension between two sides of a nation that was just going to lead to destruction. Think about the Civil War. What did Abraham Lincoln say? A house divided cannot stand. We see that now. People are starting to blame opposite sides of the party. That leads to greater tension. That leads to things like violence. So all I'm saying is the first step is listen to one another.
Cody, thanks for the call. Joseph, Bedford, Virginia, Republican. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. I'd like to say I've been a long-time Republican and NRA member. I'm 54 years old. I've owned guns since the age of 9. I had my first rifle. By the time I was 13, I had saved up, got my own shotgun. Spent most of my life in Detroit, Michigan. Never, ever in my life have I been in any trouble concerning my firearms. But you look at gun control does not work if they would state the facts. You look at Chicago, L.A., Philadelphia, Jersey, any of your most restrictive gun control states, and the criminals rule the streets, and they're better armed and outnumbered to law enforcement. So gun enforcement laws only affect the law-abiding. Criminals, gangs, they don't care about the laws. They break them for a living. And you look at Obama and Clinton, what they did with Operation Fast and Furious, arming the Mexican drug lords. So American law enforcement and citizens were shot with guns provided by crooked Obama and crooked Clinton, and then he declares executive privilege, no investigation, Operation Choke Point, and look what he did before he left office. Gives a boatload of money to Iran, America and the world's worst enemy, pardons more prisoners than the last 7 or 8 presidents combined. I mean, it's insane. And I don't know where they're always talking about check this and that. Every gun I've ever bought, you go through a criminal background check. Here in Michigan, every place I've ever lived, every gun I've ever bought, I have to go through a criminal background check.